Hi guys. Okay, I hope this is not going to be too muddled, but there are some things that need to be covered as far as character development goes, because well, things are become a little bit disconnected based on progression. You know, where we started out and where we are now has kind of created a gap between how things are interfaced or interconnected with what we are doing as far as the content SVN goes versus what's going on as the main SVN. One of the big considerations, of course, is you know, inherently content creators don't like to work with with or mess with the main build, so to speak. You know, what is making up the part of the distributed product, so to speak. So we kind of forked stuff over to a content SVN, and particularly Blade Killer does not want to use the main SVN for player model development. And to be honest, I agree with her. That's, you know, that's not a place where you want to start throwing stuff in based on a need to see if an idea will or will not work. It's confusing enough as it is now. But rather we put stuff onto a content SVN, which allows us a greater range of freedom as to, you know, at least making putting together the basic ingredients that makes up the completed art element. So in the case of player model design, you know, a lot of back and forth has been going on between Blade Killer and myself, how things could or should be structured as certainly as part of our conversion of our character pipeline over to using the Genesis 3 system, which we have a license for, which also includes our ability to purchase and make use of any DAS 3D original, which helps us in areas well, not fun to do, which I'll get to in just a moment. But let's just kind of look at this as kind of a catching up of sharing of an ideal between the flexibility of content already available as part of the Unreal 4 base feature set versus, well, what I see as a customization of something that I'm not sure of is the way it needs to be done, or simply there just for the purpose of making something work. So in this case, I see, you know, I've noticed that the how to introduce player models into the environment based on selection is actually managed by some sort of list or instancing as part of the game actual, versus the ability to in Unreal 4 to create the packages and then just as a character blueprint, and then just have the game actual load in the character from that blueprint, which already contains everything that you need as far as complete character model, player model control goes. So, you know, it's a lot of reinventing in the wheel. Say, for example, if you want to do customized materials, then, you know, that's one pathway that has to be added to that system. So, you know, it's it's the ability to do that. Let's keep it short. The ability to do that is already built into it, and as I'll hopefully demonstrate, hopefully it'll be a better way to go as far as thinking in terms of adding character and player models ongoing as a DLC solution rather than having to pack as much as we can into the game now. So one of the things that's been brought up on Slack as part of the discussion is how do you just quickly add something to an environment to take a quick look at. So let's take a look at our environment to begin with and see what kind of features that I put into this map here called Showcase. Is the everything here is HDR driven, which means that we have both a neutral lighting solution, be it if we're just looking at the viewport as static, or if we hit the play button, you can see that there is very little difference between what you see in the Pi, be it static or be it in play mode. And from here you can select the sky showcase and select different types of variables to introduce different types of lighting solutions. So I have it set up for room right now, and you can see we have HDR intensity, we have skybox intensity, exposure, fringe, and vintage. So if we change those values, we can create the overall lighting impact. Okay, fringe, exposure, increase or decrease the overall lighting. Skybox intensity, that comes as well as HDR intensity. So we can create different types of lighting solutions. Where's the other one? Exposure. If we increase the exposure. So using HDR, we have a much broader range of different lighting effects that we can apply to the player model for the purpose of examination. Now to answer that question of how to add a player model, well, that's simple. Once again, if we just select each of these items one at a time and just drag and drop them in, I don't really like that, so let's change that to back to our stock settings. Hopefully quickly. Yeah. So based on our stock lighting solutions here, we can kind of move around our character to see how things look at different angles. You know, like that. I like what I like as a base is room. Seems to be a lot more neutral, much more defocused lighting, and ta-da! There you go. First thing you want to know or learn to do is selecting the components that make up the player, so it can make life easier for us. We'll go to Asset Actions, select Actors, and we're going to zero everything out to origin. And the reason why everything kind of snaps together is because everything is based on the G3 based player model, which is, of course, the Genesis 3 framework. So everything that is part of that rigging setup is applied to each and every different component that is added. You know, you have options. So you know, if we want to add, let's see. Where do we have, I don't have things sorted. Okay, so a backpack, for example, if we can zero that out, boom. Huh. For some reason I dragged in two. Okay, let's get rid of that one. So we would gotta wait for the compiler to finish selecting it. But ta-da, now we got a backpack assigned to it. Okay, well, Sarah without hair, it doesn't look very good, so let's select hairstyle. And we'll just drag and drop that in, and we'll snap that to world origin, and there you go. And if we hit play now, you can see what it looks like simulated under playing conditions. Okay, it's we say, okay, well, we're not too sure if we want that. We want to check out a different lighting solution on our character model. You know, there's snow. That's kind of wishy-washy there. More of an exterior. And we'll go back to what we had said before. Now we go, oh, okay, well, you know, I'm not too keen on that hairstyling. Let's change the hairstyling. So we select that. We go over here, say use that. Boom. And we got a different hairstyling. I don't have the material set up for the eyes just yet. You know, I want to set this up for advanced materials that have been now included in. I think it came in dot 12, so you know, it needs a little bit more work there as far as opacity, because there is an eye shader available, so that would be interesting to play around with. Subsurface scattering is another material type that needs a little bit more experimenting. But I'm kind of holding off until playing around with that until RC has done some custom textures and materials. But since we do have a G3 or a DAZ 3D indie license, we can use any kind of DAZ 3D original we wish. So in this case, the hair, which needs work with needs to be made working with the advanced hair shader available for Unreal 4. It's been introduced, but lack a lot of information of how to apply it. Is something that we can buy. So you know, I'm kind of pointing this out as a criticality because well, making hair has always been a bitch. It changes the makeup of the character so dramatically that changing a hairstyle. So if we go from that hairstyle to this hairstyle, which needs to compile a shader to this hairstyle. Here's another hairstyle. That'd probably be a little bit more oriental. Actually, I made that up so you can add a pony. You know, it could be a little bit more diversified. It could be like a ponytail added to it if you wish. What else do we have here? Here's another interesting hairstyle. So very easy to make on-the-fly changes. Now, being able to buy a hairstyling, you know, I'm expecting in not too distant future, once a lot more information on how to do hairstyles and different hair shaders and what have you, we're going to start seeing a lot more of that start to show up in the Epic Marketplace, as well as some of the sample files that they're distributing. So, you know, it'd be easy enough to take whatever they come out with as far as hairstyling goes, and translate that over to Unreal 4. Stock hairs, let's see, I think I've got some different hairstylings here too as well. Do I? No. I haven't any male ones set up before. Now, the nice thing about being able to Frankenstein something together like this, or Mr. Potato Head, or whatever you wish or want to call it, is DAZ Studio products are darn dirt cheap. So, for example, this hairstyle here, which is a DAZ Studio original, is costs us about $1.25, $1.50, or something like that, with a platinum account. So the weeks and weeks of getting it right, hopefully getting it right, and then looking at it and say, does it fit or not, is replaced by the ability to just select something from a broad range of different hairstylings and see if it's going to work with the character as it becomes more, as we buy more and more and build it up more and more. Eventually, that's a real tedious, let's say, a real tedious task that is accomplished by a simple credit card, let's say a credit card solution to the problem. Okay, what else we got here? Yeah, it can be blonde hair. Each of these hair, of course, if we look over to the side panel here, our materials can obviously be changed, and they can be changed at runtime, so different types of colors of hairs can be changed. That's the nice thing about DAZ Studio products. No, this is not what I would consider a hero part. This is like, you know, this is one of those things that is not as critical as, say, this lovely jumpsuit that Blade Killer is working on. I would consider obviously being unique, and as to being a hero component of our characters. Boots would certainly be considered a hero component. With secondary would be, of course, would be backpacks. Who cares, you know, where, if we make them or if we buy them. You know, I couldn't do it better, let's just say. And considering that this also comes with a whole bunch of different types of materials already available for it, you're talking about months and months worth of work being done based on something that is covered under fair use. Player models can be made as unique as you want them to, considering that you know, we're piping stuff over to ZBrush now. So basically the G3 model is just a big blob of mesh, no more importance than, say, a cube would be or a sphere would be, and then of course that doesn't interfere with Blade Killer or Rabbit Cow's ability to create something rather unique. Okay, so anyways, that kind of illustrates how easy it is to just kind of drag and drop and dump into a scene environment like the showcase I have set up here, and being able to see how it looks like under different types of lighting conditions. But we can take this one step further. This becomes a little bit more tricky to be able to select stuff, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm kind of all over the map here for a bit. Okay, so if we select all the stair components, and we go Asset Action and select all actors using this asset, and then we want to add in backpack. I can now demonstrate the importance of component building based off a single framework by just saying, okay, let's go over here into our detail panel with all the items that are selected, since they are all using the same base asset framework, in this case the G3 base player skeleton, that they're imported and then just told to use this mesh, which means that everything just kind of snaps together like Lego blocks. If we add an animation to it, you can then kind of run around and see how our character is being animated based on different lighting solutions once again. So we get the full, kind of the full Monty impact as to how it's moving as far as lighting effect goes. You know, specularity is of little value unless, of course, the object in question that you're applying to it actually moves, because specularity is, of course, is really more or less based on movement relative to the object and not so much relative to the camera perspective. Unless, of course, it's a static object, like, say, for example, the floor. You can see specular highlights. But, you know, characters moving, specularity changes. So it gives you a better idea of what's going on here. So let's hit stop, and just to kind of illustrate. Okay, so that gives us an idea there. That another thing we could do is, let's try as a, oops. What about this? I don't, there we go. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that. It's supposed to catch your... No, I don't have the sound attached to it. Anyways, I think the point here is to kind of demonstrate how our characters can actually act as far as a authored animation goes, and our characters can talk, our characters can express, and certainly can act. Now, it's not something that's usable in 1.0, but thinking ahead, say 2.0, we have the option and the ability to just allow third party to introduce the animation data via some sort of pipeline, be it FBX or DVH or what have you, directly into Unreal 4, and actually have third party create videos of our character player models actually acting and behaving with one another within a three-dimensional environment. So, you know, that's something to look that's built into the design today. I mean, you know, it's just there. Be it we use it or not is of no relevancy, or anything that we have to develop or take the time and effort to put into it, beyond creating, authoring animation that we wish, which is being the animator is not a difficult task to do or perform. So, practical use in game would be things like menus. Sarah telling the player to hurry up and start, get her dressed or get her loaded out so she can get into the game and kick some ass, and or to kick ass and chew bubble gum and she's all out of bubble gum kind of thing, and add personality. So this is something that obviously is a plus for content development kind of thing, because this is the way we look and envision the game being, say, 5 years from now, rather than having to restrict our thought patterns and thinking towards, okay, we need to get this done today kind of thing, and get. Actually, is she talking? I don't hear. maybe the volume's too down low. Settings. Yeah, there's the volume. Duh. No, that wasn't it either. Oh well. Moving on. I kind of like this. I'm gonna have to find a character model to use that here. I kind of like it, but it needs to be animated. You know, maybe something for Happy Day to work on. Maybe he can, you know, hack the hair, make it work. Material makeups are accessible, of course, based on selection. But let's kind of reset everything. I think the point's been made as far as drag, drop, zero out, everything snaps to world origin, boom, and then based on selection. So if we select the body and we select use animation, we select different stance. It's only applied to that object unless we select everything. And we apply, and we go over here and we apply multiple values. And if you want, you could add animation using a blueprint. So if you want to do something that's a little bit more complex, maybe possibly even key driven, you can add that too as well. So if you want to, if we wanted to, we could create a movement system would tap into the WASD key, and we hit play. Our character, when we hit WSD, would move in those types of directions for purpose of testing. But for now, this is just an easy way just to quickly do some practical examination, shall we say. Now things, oops. Let's get rid of that and see how do we extend this over into the game actual. Kind of based on how things are working now, should be on the main SVN, should be a directory called character BP, and under character BP I already have some examples of G3 based character models built as components, which is usable. So if we actually look at our character here, everything about this character can be accessed by the blueprint panel. So if we select Tom, we can see that the component section, okay, edit blueprint, open the blueprint editor, hit the viewport. Okay, that's, oh, always some truck running by. Okay, hopefully we can live past that. And you can see we have our character, well, not the greatest example. What about Sarah? She's, yeah, there's some weirdness going on there too as well. Oh, right, okay. This is just how things are connected, being run through a master pose component. Now, this will be the final process of building a character as a component, because it allows the character to be animated based on the inherited mesh, rather than as to animations being applied, rather than being applied to the individual components as part of the inherited connection. Once again, this is probably a separate video that needs to be put on, because it's otherwise we're going to get off the beaten path here. But let's go ahead and disconnect that, break that as an event, compile it, take a look at the viewport again. Yeah, kind of messed up. Okay, let's get rid of that. How about Razor? Okay, Razor I believe is something that's just been playing with, and it is not messed up here. So if we look at the viewport, there you go. You can see how Razor is compiled and put together as a player pawn with no movement component. So that's kind of useless. Okay, so that. Oh, okay, viewport. Okay. Yeah, you can see Anastasia's kind of butched up too now. Oh, right. Okay. Actually, this has been set up to. Sorry if this is a bit wishy-washy. I've been kind of moving stuff, testing things, and I don't really have something that's set up.
I think if he did what those kids say he did, the guy deserved to have a bad thing happen to him.
But
you know what I think? I think if he did what those kids say he did, the guy deserved to have a bad thing happen to him. I mean, worse than shame and a jail term.
There we go.
I mean something bad. They should take him just like you take a carrot and peel him down real slow. You know, real careful.
Yeah, there you go.
Layer
The
by
eye
layer,
shaders are
until you've got him peeled naked as an egg. And then you bring him to Hubbard Elementary and you lock him in the gym with 20 mothers with baseball bats. You put some Gatorade in there and some high nutrition snacks and maybe have an alternate or two who can substitute when one of the women gets tired. You know what I think? I think if he did what...
Okay, anyways, that kind of gives you the idea that the character blueprints are kind of in place, but we've yet to decide that this is the direction it's going with. But let's get on to the subject of actually creating a character blueprint that could be actually usable as part of the game actual. So we go to create class. We're going to select a character which has a movement component attached to it, and let's call this test. Now I'm not going to go too deep because there's a lot it can do, which would require separate videos onto himself. But here's how we would construct a character as a character component blueprint that we can drag and drop and do some little bit more advanced kind of stuff. So as demonstrative of easy use of say going to our Sarah character, what we want is the skeletal mesh. And to kind of harp on it a bit, they're all based on the G3 base player model. We can select each one of these. See if I can just kind of drag that over, and we're going to bring this over, and we want this all to be inherited as part of the mesh inherited component. So we'll grab these guys here and drag and drop them on. Boom. Now that makes everything that is unified under this inherency. Now we can add a degree of complexity to it if we wish, but let's go to one step a little bit further. We got to give poor Sarah here some hair. So to kind of demonstrate once again flexibility based on building things by component that later can be forked off into separate elements. As being stock elements. So boots could be, we've got maybe a selection of 100 different footwear that we can add to the player model, or 100 different types of hair based on stuff that we built, bought, or harvest from some of the sample files that hopefully they'll make Epic will make available into the future, or that somebody has done all the work for us. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but making hair for a given character can change the personality of the character so much that but it's really subjective as to making that proper selection. It's just imagine going to the barber and you have to decide what kind of hairstyling you want. You could totally select the wrong hairstyling and come out looking like a Gomer, where a Gomer hair would look perfectly good on somebody else. I just get a buzz cut, but in this case we need to give Sarah her base hair, which we've been kind of playing with, and we need to be an instance of our mesh here, which snaps everything into its local transform. Everything is right now based on 000 and not mesh 000. Actually, I think it is. So if we grab the mesh and we pull that down, everything becomes inherited to this point. See, it says inherited, right? So that tells you something. So if we kill that and delete that out, we toss our Sarah hair. because everything apart to GC is based on world origin 000, everything should snap together like Legos. So we select that and we zero out our translation and our rotation, and boom, it snaps together. And ta-da, we now have just built our very first blueprint-based player model. There's our test, so we drag that, boom, in it goes. Now, what else can we add? Okay, let's see. We have our character blueprint selected, and usually faster just to kind of select it until I get things like the backpack sorted out and what have you. Backpack. Okay, we have a backpack as an object. And we inherit and we zero it out. Come on. As to the origin of the origin point. Ta-da! Boom. We have a backpack. Now, what else do we want to kind of toss on there? I don't think I have too much ready and made to go. I thought I had some gloves. There we go, gloves. Let's give Sarah some gloves. Okay, razor gloves I think will kind of match up pretty good. Okay, I will do that up. And we'll zero that out. So the gloves that are used for razor, which is just something I've been tinkering around with, playing with, actually snaps to our character here. Okay, what about those eyes? Oh boy, they're pretty gross. Let's see if we can just do a quick 1, 2, 3 fix up. Okay, what I do know is that character blueprint or Anastasia.
You know what I think? You know what I think?
Do you know what I think?
I think if he did
I think
what those kids say he did, the guy deserved to have a bad thing happen to him.
Anastasia,
I mean, worse
want
than
her eyes.
shame and a jail term. I mean something bad. They should take him just like you take a carrot and peel him down real slow. You know, real careful. Layer by layer until you've got him peeled naked as an egg. And then you bring him to Hubbard Elementary and you lock him in the gym with 20 mothers with
No,
baseball
I'm not going to
bats.
miss. That's,
You put some
that's too much
Gatorade
of a
in there
diversion.
and some high nutrition snacks and maybe...
Well, anyways, there's our Sarah. But what else do we have access to? Okay, we did add our Sarah test. We want our Sarah test. Okay, so what we did here is in our viewport is we added a loadout item, a backpack that fits her. Of course, we have access, once again, as demonstrated. I won't go through it again, save you the pain. But we have access to the animation pipeline that we can apply because it's all using the same G3 rigging setup. It's so what we add can be made to fit the individual characters as to form fitting based on hopefully a single asset. In this case, be it a backpack, be it a helmet, be it night vision goggles, and if we tie that into the menuing system, the usability can be just turned on and off, just simple. If we go down to visibility, it's hidden in game. Now if we go to our viewport here, you can see it's invisible and hidden in game. It's not used. Now if we click on using game, visible, hidden in game, hidden in game, hidden in game. That easy. So you just have to see, use a single cast 2 to see is the object hidden in game. If it's hidden in game, don't use it. So selection, go to the loadout. Okay, I need a backpack. Boom, you have a backpack. Oh, I don't need a backpack. Okay, turn that off. So anything that could be as far as accessory loadout goes, could already be staged as part of the player model. So hair. You can see that's going to be absolutely miserable to slide it underneath a helmet. But with a helmet that is uniquely built for this player model, you can hide the hair and show the player with the helmet. So once again, life is easier. You don't have to account for that as part of the coding process, just part of the selection process. So as part of the loadout selection. So if we type, just to kind of show it off again, okay, no backpack, backpack, no backpack, backpack. What we also have access through the character-based blueprint to as well is materials. Materials are easily swappable as being already built into it. We have various different settings similar to any other blueprint as to say collision, lighting. We can add custom events, custom animation, which I don't think our current setup does. So if I want a beanie with a little propeller going around and around and around, that's easy enough to do. Or if we want to give say functionality over form, what would be something that we could do? NVGs turning on and off, that kind of thing. The selection of the head, for example, we can change eye color and runtime. We can change the skin and tonal color, even lips. The lip color, I think, is selectable. Different color lips, different face colors, what have you. All of that can be done as part of the BP component, and can be done, of course, as part of as a loadout through selection, creating a selection link as to available materials available for a given character. So you can have like a Sarah folder with skin color tones and what have you. Changing the since this is a material, you can change the different qualities of that material as a selection. So you want her darker skin, lighter skin, or what have you. That's possible too as well. So just to kind of hopefully finish this off, the advantage of this is no muss, no fuss. You just make a character blueprint or an instance. Duplicate, and that becomes hopefully an instance. No, I think you have to change the class. Nah, I won't get too much into that. So basically the difference here though is the character blueprint already contains everything that can be added to the character at runtime without having to tie in and be limited to say a list structure. So you built the character blueprint, and then in the game you just have a list that loads in that BP based on the name of the character. You don't need to have it. What about team colors? Well, team colors, that would be something that you could add to the character or as part of construction script, because you can add just as easily variables to the unique variables to the character. So if we want to add a variable, we can make that. Let's see. What do we want to make that? We can make that an integer. If I remember, if I remember correctly, we're basing team colors off of 0 being red and 1 being blue. We'll have to lock that down. But if we go ahead and compile that now, if we look at our character blueprint setup here, you can see it's now an accessible variable. So we go, okay, well, Sarah's going to be on red team. Red is 0. Boom. Done. Okay, so now that kind of sorts that out. We can add descriptors. So select a variable. Okay, and we can go male, F-E-M-A-L-E. going to be too picky or fussy. Okay, so let's say we decide that compile to make it visible. Select the component, male, female. Okay, let's say 0 is male, 1 is female. That easy. Then when you cast to the VP, you can just sort of pick up whatever the team they're on, and are they male or female, and then add anything else, that may be unique to a given character, or something that let's say it is say let's add another one. Let's say class. So if we actually make that a string variable, just for the purpose of demonstration, of course, name and compile. I think you can use strings. Yeah, you can go heavy, scout, etc., etc. Best though well, the info I have is to keep this as fixed integer values. So we now have our test character set up. I think are we visible over here? No, I think we can add the. Oh no, it's not. Let's see. Let's see. I think we visible. No, sorry, going off the beaten path here a bit. I think these have to be made. Change those. No, I don't think they're showing until we set that. So, anyways, I'm just kind of pathfinding at the moment. But this is ultimately it would be nice if this was what's actually loaded in as the physical playable character. I think hopefully I covered some of the important aspects of how everything we needed to do is actually built in or can easily be added. It's just so simple. If we want it on one team or another, we create a variable for it, and that can be done on the content side of things without hopefully wasting the time of the coder who has to hard code that stuff, of course. So anyways, I think that's the important details that are covered. This is at least what I feel is of value of consideration as far as moving the player content pipeline forward. But as it goes, this is hopefully, as far as material goes, this is what we'll be ultimately working with, because I can just drag that out, and then once I create a pipeline, maybe something that people don't know at the moment is that, as say for example, if we're working on the textures on texture, once we have established a character blueprint, it doesn't really lock it in, but it makes it easier to manage as far as this type of thing goes, as well as to be able to see yeah, I did add a material. She does have green. See, there you go. You never know what you got until you put things together. Green eyes. But being able to, for the development pipeline, for as far as Blade Killer goes, this is what you'll be working with. And a little trick you can do is, let's say these textures, if we these are probably saved as a TGA or whatever format that is used. If you save the source of this material under the texture folder, so for example we have a T-Boots mask TGA, you can see the pathway here that is created. She's under shares Blade Killer Red Dragons Sarah Boots, which is in this case being forked from a different pathway. This is probably going to cause some problems as for as far as source connectivity, a source chain. Where is the source located? Where if she had placed this stuff underneath the, let's say the Sarah textures folder as being unique to this item. You know, as I mentioned, I know it sounds a little wishy-washy at the moment, but we haven't locked down exactly how we're going to sort things out into different sub elements. So you know, gloves don't have to be unique to a given character, but we can make the character unique in construction, kind of thing. So how the body looks is, with exception to materials and textures, is not a priority as say compared to the clothing that we put onto the character. As well, of course, it's the clothing that defines the character in the end of things, be it if we use almost identical different types of character. But hopefully I demonstrated that the changing of the hair can have a huge change to the personality of the character overall. But getting back onto the subject here, if we once again, if you store your textures as part of the texture chain underneath the content, this case it would be the content characters Sarah textures folder for a given object. Then when every time it's updated, Unreal 4 will update the materials that it's connected to, that the materials attached to. So if we export a new a normal map, as soon as it sees, oh, this normal map's been updated, it automatically will load it. 4096 by 4096 for normal maps. Well, that's a little bit high, but consideration as far as that goes. There are some features coming that will allow you to designate the output of a given dimension, material dimension. So you could bring it in as a 4K texture, but output it as say 512 by 512x by examination. So I believe that's another feature of substance materials. You can tell what the input resolution will be and what the output resolution will be. So that's something to put on a say that must keep an eye out for kind of thing. But if you put the textures now underneath the folder, underneath the project folder, it gets updated, and we can maintain that chain because it'll only look for the update as far as to what's contained under the content folder. So we won't have this, okay, Blade Killer's textures are spread out all over the place, as I just showed. Obviously, this is changing over time, and another reason why we don't have direct development between the SVN main and, of course, the content SVN, because we got to kind of sort this stuff out in a sandbox where we can afford to screw things up and fix things when they need to be, and not mess up what the other guys are doing. I just wanted to kind of touch base here. Sorry if this is a little bit in length, but we just kind of reached the point. We've locked down on the character pathway design using the Genesis 3 player model, so we now can start formulating how different things are built for the character through practical examination, having it in hand and seeing how it all kind of fits together, rather than saying, and then be able to show somebody how it's assembled, rather than saying, well, we can do it this way, that way, and we have these even longer discussions of that may or may not be of any value at all whatsoever. Okay, sorry about that once again. Be it as much as I can think of right now, but it's complexity and simplicity. What can I say? Sorry. Bye.